From the Samson Production Studios in the heart of Hazleton, Pennsylvania, it's your News 13.
Brought to you by SSP TV and the Standard Speaker.
A 13-year-old is kidnapped and beaten and left in a city park bleeding. And now police say they have the people responsible. It's where we begin tonight, live at 5. And later, a Hazleton man thanks the community for all the outpouring of support for his family in their time of need. Good evening and thanks so much for joining us, everyone. I'm Kristen Bazinski. 3 arrests have been made in connection with the abduction and beating of a 13-year-old girl. It happened in Hazleton last week in broad daylight, and the victim was left in a playground bleeding with serious injuries to her face. Hazleton City Police Chief Frank DeAndrea says it was thanks to tips from the public that 3 female high school students are now facing some pretty serious charges. And the chief says the abduction and beating of the 13-year-old is gang-related. He called the media together this afternoon to announce the developments with the district attorney, police officers who investigated, and school district officials. The teen was abducted from outside of the Hazleton Elementary Middle School. Something was put over her head. She was driven around the city and then to the Altmiller playground, where more people were waiting, and that's when she was severely beaten. While 3 teens are right now in trouble with the law and with the school district facing expulsion or suspension, there could still be more arrests to come as this investigation continues.
Several residents who live around the area of the Altmiller playground had called us, and they had apparently also ran up to the area and broke up the fight and chased off the juveniles who had been fighting with our victim. And they called us, and when we got to speak with her at the hospital later on after she had been cleared medically, she had told us that someone had come from behind her after yelling her name and took some type of clothing or some other item and put it over her head and forced her into a vehicle. And I think that kind of goes into Dr. Antonelli's thing with the severity of it being on school grounds when this happened. You know, it was right in the area of the castle, and fortunately, it is an isolated incident, but it's still involving the school, still involving students, and thankfully the community got very involved with this.
But it's through the community effort of people calling and giving information, calling in anonymous tips, or calling in saying, I saw this vehicle, I saw this person. You know, you have neighbors, you have the community that actually comes together and supports the investigation, and that's how we get our information. And you start asking enough questions of enough people, and you're able to piece it together.
Every student in the Hazleton Area School District deserves to get home safely and deserve a reasonable time to get home. They don't deserve the time to be harassed, to be picked up, to be fought, to be jumped, or anything like that. They have every right to go home, and every parent has the right to believe their child is safe, whether they're in school, on the way to school, or on the way home from school.
News 13 asked how the 13-year-old victim is doing today. Officer Schoonmaker said she is healing medically, but the emotional scars of what happened could, of course, take a while to heal. She also has not returned back to school as of today. Since the incident, city police have stepped up patrols around schools within Hazleton. Are your child's vaccinations up to date? If not, time's quickly running out as the deadline approaches, and the penalties are severe as the state crackdown begins. For this week's Super segment, News 13 sat down with Ellen McBride, supervisor of the school nurses of the Hazleton Area School District. McBride tells us over 2,000 students still need to be vaccinated. Thousands of students in the Hazleton Area School District and across the state of Pennsylvania may risk not being allowed back in their classroom in a few weeks if they don't have state-required vaccines. 7th grade students must receive 2 vaccines, and all children must get a 2nd dose of the chickenpox vaccine. Now, those are now the state's immunization requirements, and parents have been notified for the past several months. On April 14th, it'll be exactly 8 months since parents and students first received word of the new requirements. Still, not all students have been immunized.
And out of our students, 10,410 is the enrollment that I had as of November. There are 2,265 that have not met these requirements. So come April 14th, according to what the state says, they are to be put out of school. Every paper that we've sent home, it's been highlighted. It's a state mandate. It's a state law. It's, you know, I don't know how much clearer it can get. I think what's really happening is I think a lot of these students have gotten them and they just have not sent us in the paperwork. Because some of the paperwork we're getting in, you see that the varicella was received in 09 or it was received in 2010. Well, we're not getting them. And so they don't realize that even though it's sitting at home and they're saying, okay, well, I already had mine, we don't know that you've already had yours. And we need something in writing.
McBride tells News 13 during the week of April 9th, health clinics will be set up in various locations, and you can register your child for an appointment by visiting www.padohclinic.app.com. You must register by March 30th. That's where students can take their paperwork and get the vaccines that are needed. Again, any student who has not submitted written proof that their immunizations are up to date will be prohibited from attending school until the information is received. For more information on the vaccines required and the state's new regulations, visit www.health.state.pa.us/immunizations. It's called the Student Achievement Education Block Grant, and the new fund is part of Governor Tom Corbett's proposed budget for 2012-2013, and it's raising some concern within the Hazleton Area School District. News 13 talked with several administrators of the district Tuesday morning about the proposed change in state funding, basic education funding, transportation for public schools, transportation for non-public schools, and Social Security obligations would all be combined. Currently, the district is reimbursed for busing using a certain formula. The proposal would bring that formula to an end and put transportation into one of the categories in the block grant.
Now, the danger to doing that is down the road in the future, they can freeze this block grant. And as we know, transportation costs always go up. So we wouldn't be getting the formula increases that we've seen in the past. And that's really the main problem with the transportation being part of that block grant.
While that overall block grant does increase, and I think this is very important to know, spending, it increases monies available under that grant by 0.03%, which is not enough to cover increased costs for all four categories within that block grant.
So our option is to look for another funding source. And with the budget being what it is, those funding sources are few and far between. So it's certainly a challenge that we have in this budget season. We are looking at doing some things with different programs in the district to try and find that funding. But unfortunately, it's going to have an impact on something in the district.
We would like to see the basic education funding as a separate item. We would like to see current formulas and separate line items for public transportation and for non-public transportation. We would also like to see our obligation for charges for charter school students to reflect the actual costs of educating those students in the charter schools. Currently, they do not reflect actual costs. And we would also like to see a moratorium on the elimination of payments for school construction projects, because currently there is a freeze for school construction projects, and we would like to see that that moratorium, that freeze, lifted so that we can proceed with our plans for expansion without our financial obligations being adversely affected.
Now, the constant rising cost of transportation and the potential decrease in state reimbursements has district officials from all over the area looking for ways to offset the impact on district budgets. So what will the McAdoo-Calaire School be nicknamed, and how about a mascot? Well, those answers are not known yet, but what we do know is that the students will be the ones deciding. It's been an ongoing debate, but now you can call it a compromise between the school's PTA, the Hazleton Area School Board, and the McAdoo High School Alumni Association, who all came together Monday night. The school is currently being remodeled and will reopen soon as an elementary middle school, not just K through 5th grades. The McAdoo High School Alumni Association asked that the school use the nickname of the Maroons and stick with maroon and white as the school colors, the same as the high school when it was open, keeping with tradition. However, the students really wanted to have the final say, and parents agreed it should be the students' decision. Parents also expressed concern over using the nickname Maroons, saying it could welcome some derogatory comments and situations. The Alumni Association took offense to that and said there are many meanings to the word in the dictionary.
And all I'm asking, if we're going to have an election and maroon is going to be on that ballot, then I think the children should get an explanation or a correction on the definition of maroon. They took that really out of context. There was 11 different definitions of maroons, and they were all about color, how beautiful the color maroon was. It was being marooned on an island. And there was one in there that says back in the 17th and 18th century, the Maroons were slaves and they were demons. But it only pertained to one little village in India. And since that time, it only existed in that little town. It didn't spread over here. And the definition is not in any of our dictionaries right now as demons.
The only thing we wanted just from the get-go was for the kids to have a vote. We don't want someone else's tradition to be imposed on them. It's a new school. They should be able to make their own legacy and their own traditions. So by them voting, they get the final say, no one else.
What do you make of the accusations that the kids' minds were tainted when voting on this?
I completely disagree with that. Our children are educated enough to Google. They know how to use computers. It is the year 2012, and I absolutely do not feel that we poison or tainted our children's minds in any way. They're old enough to know how to explore the definition of a word. So if they explored the definition of a word and they found a derogatory meaning, it was on their own, not because someone pushed it down their throats.
Students will receive a new ballot next week with 4 choices of nicknames, 2 chosen by the alumni group, Maroons and Marauders, and 2 from the PTA, Mustangs or the Bears. No matter what the outcome is, school district officials and McAdoo school administrators say they will make sure the McAdoo High School Maroons are recognized in the new school through special displays and possibly even a student club named after it. Coming up on News 13, we'll head to one classroom where students were getting a lesson in law enforcement from one Hazleton City police officer. But first, our Freddie B's in with some news from the sports world. He'll be talking a little girls soccer next. Stay with us. Tonight's Pennsylvania winning lottery numbers from this afternoon. Daily number 835. Your big 44137. Quinto 64269, and treasure hunt 8, 10, 13, 14, 30. Good luck.
Good evening, everyone, and here's tonight's Talk of the Town. The Hazel Township Fire Company presents a Spring Vendor Fair. This will be held Saturday, March 31st from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the Fire Company. Admission is just $2, so come on out and support your local fire department and local vendors. There will be door prizes and basket giveaways. And that's tonight's Talk of the Town. News 13 extends our deepest sympathies to the family and friends of these recently departed. Thomas M. Chavinsky, formerly of Klein Township. The funeral will be held Friday at 10:30 a.m. from the Ukrainian Catholic Byzantine Church. The viewing will be held Friday from 9:30 to 10:30 a.m. Stanley J. Duda of Cunningham. All services will be held privately and at the convenience of the family. Diana L. Frederici of Tamaqua. The funeral will be held Thursday at 11 a.m. from the Sisselman Raj Funeral Home. Friends may call Wednesday from 6 to 8 p.m. and on Thursday from 10 to 11 a.m. Aaron G. Morrison of Whitehaven. The funeral services will be held Friday at 11 a.m. from the Alan R. Horn Funeral Home. The viewing will be on Thursday from 6 to 8 p.m. Victoria J. Fendrick, formerly of Freeland. The arrangements are under the direction of the D'Elia Funeral Home in Lakewood, New Jersey. Nellie S. Smith of Harley. The arrangements are under the direction of the Frank J. Bonin Funeral Home. Fred Patrish of Mahanoy City. The arrangements are under the direction of the Louis T. Truskowski Funeral Home. And Timothy James Soto of West Hazelton. The arrangements are being handled by the Frank J. Bonin Funeral Home. Tonight's obituaries have been brought to you by the Smilex Floral Shop on 15th Street in Hazelton. The palm crosses are in. Order yours now. Palm crosses are $5.50 and decorated crosses are $8.50. Get yours before Palm Sunday, April 1st. Call 570-454-0111. And by Mia's. Don't settle for the second best when dining out. Discover Mia's new low-priced dinner menu for 2012. Remember, there's plenty of free gated parking in the Markle Building lot. Find us on the web at miasrestaurant.com or follow us on Facebook.
Well, right outside we go, where we're taking a look at the moon, thanks to our Andy Minnick, who captured this last night. But today the sun was certainly showing, but it really didn't help with warming the air up because it sure was cold out there today. For tonight, we'll see increasing clouds with a low down to 41, a calm wind tomorrow, partly sunny skies. And we do see a chance of some showers moving into Greater Hazelton, and the temp's going to rise to 60 degrees for your Wednesday. Your forecast tonight, live at 5, brought to you by Just Windows and much, much more. The pros in windows and doors since 1985. Showroom hours are Monday through Friday, 8 to 4:30, Saturday, 8 to 1. They're on 1st Street in Freeland. You can call 636-1133 and make sure you visit the website, justwindowsandmore.com. Also, Fagley Oil Company, heating oil and propane delivery in Tamaqua, hometown, the Greater Hazelton area, and many surrounding areas. Pricing and ordering delivery is available by phone or by visiting the website on your screen, fagleys.com. A nice break from the work day to enjoy a tasty lunch with some fellow women. The Greater Hazelton Chamber of Commerce Women's Networking Committee hosted the second in a series of luncheon programs at Mia's Restaurant in downtown Hazelton. The event was sponsored by MMI Preparatory School. The ladies enjoyed a buffet-style lunch and listened to Pennsylvania Superior Court Judge Corey Stevens speaking on the judging system. The next luncheon for the ladies is set for Tuesday, May 29th. Finally, live at 5, a group of very talented musicians is once again gearing up for a holiday performance. And News 13 stopped by rehearsal in Freeland Monday night. The Freeland Community Choir is getting ready to present an Easter musical, Never Thirst Again. The musical will be presented twice on Sunday, April 1st at 3 o'clock at St. Luke's Evangelical Lutheran Church on Main Street in Freeland, and will also feature selections by the St. Anne's Band Brass Ensemble. The second performance that day will be at 7 o'clock at the Cunningham United Methodist Church on Main Street in Cunningham. And if you can't make either of those performances, the musical will be performed a third time, Sunday, April 22nd, 3 o'clock at the Faith United Church of Christ on Faith Drive off of the Hazelton Airport Beltway. The Freeland Community Choir is comprised of 42 singers from Freeland, Hazelton, Cunningham, Sugarloaf, and many surrounding areas. Admission is free to the shows, and for more information, you can check www.freelandcommunitychoir.org. We say good luck to all of these talented performers. Stay with us tonight. Your Live at 5:30 is on deck. 3 arrests made in connection with the abduction and beating of a Hazelton teen. We'll have more on that coming your way, plus more local sports. Stay with us.